All right. Hope everyone is having, what are we, Friday? A wonderful Friday, and that you have fun plans for this weekend. You get some time with family, friends, kick your feet up because we all deserve some downtime. Anyway, I've been really looking forward to this chat for a long time now, and I'm really excited here in the near future. We're actually going to get the opportunity to have Aleks here live in person. So, with that being said, this is kind of going to be a little bit of a teaser, but I'm just so excited to get some of this man's backstory out there for all the listeners, hopefully to flip that switch within individuals to realize how important it is to support such amazing, heroic, patriotic individuals that share the same morals and values as you and I. So without further ado, Aleks from Black Eagle Apparel, how you doing today, brother?
Hey, what's up, dude? I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Man, I'm really good. Feeling blessed. I got we all got our little battles, but super excited. Let me start off, guys. Check us out. Look at all this new merch I got. And this is all thanks to Aleks here. Really easy to do through his website in communication with him. Not only this shirt, I mean, this is one of his hats right here representing the 22 a day. For our veterans, it's so important. And he also mashed out a whole bunch of these koozies in no time.
Hell yeah.
So he could do a lot more than I'm sure I even know of at this point. But just so excited to support this man and what he's doing. Um, so that man, you want to tell us a little about yourself, Aleks?
Yeah, man, no problem. I'm European. I come from Europe, right? I was born in Croatia. I lived in four different countries, three different continents in my life, right? Lived in the United States for 22 years, the best country in the world, in my opinion. The reason why I love America so much because of all the freedoms and opportunities we have here. What we have here, we have nowhere else. I've lived everywhere. I've been through like 37 countries in the world. I've traveled like all over the world, right? America's it. This is our last stand, right? I did 10 years in the Marine Corps. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. When I was transitioning out of the Marines in 2019, I decided that I will never be an employee again, right? Doesn't matter how hard life gets. I made that decision because I was just tired of people watching over me, just watching every little move. You feel like you're being spied on, like micromanagement because this is the problem, man. The problem is in the world that everybody's so scared of losing their job. And what they're doing is they're micromanaging everybody underneath them, right? So there was a problem with me because I was a good leader. I had Marines that many of them I keep in touch even today. And I made a decision, man, that I will get out. I will start something patriotic because I love America. And I want to be a business owner. I don't want to work for nobody ever again. And here I am, man, 4 years later. I got two businesses right now. I live in Neosho, Missouri, small town in Missouri, southwest side of Missouri. And, I'm glad that we met, right? I'm glad that we met. I'm glad that I can provide the merch for you, bro. More is going to be on the way pretty soon.
That's awesome.
That's a little bit about me, man. A Marine veteran, nothing crazy, just a regular American guy, man, trying to make it day to day.
Wow. I can't wait till you're in person where we can really dive into depth because I want to capture that in person, even me personally, because I captured some of that over our phone call chats here. And praise God that we met. Like it's not a coincidence. He's got a hand in all of this kind of uniting um, believers and just to help our families and our futures. It's just so cool to see all this happen. But when we were chatting on the phone, because it's just like, wow, there's so much to dive into. Like, what was it that you know, pulled on that directed you to serve this country, especially being from another country. And I know because your experience over there, like you actually dealt with real communism, like or go ahead and put some of that in your own words. That'd be pretty
Yeah, it
cool to get.
was. I grew up in former Yugoslavia. It was a communist country until 1991, right? I was only like 5 years old when a civil war happened. And I lived in a combat zone pretty much as a kid. We got shelled and mortared all the time. We got shot at all the time, bombed.
Mm,
Um, After 5 years of that, and honestly, it was Clinton's administration that did all that, right? So it was in a sense NATO, but America with big help of America, right? That what happened to us over there, right? So I had a resentment against America for a very long time,
mm,
and then once we moved into a refugee camp in 1996, I lived in a refugee camp from 96, actually no, 95 until 2001. So I lived in a refugee camp for 6 years, and I hated America. I hated it, right? 1999, we got bombed by Clinton's administration, right?
mm,
Dropping all over from the sky. And, in 2001, there was a chance to escape the refugee camp and go, different places in the world. That's how I have friends in Australia, Netherlands, Germany, all over the place, because all the countries were taking on immigrants, right? But we applied to like 7 different countries, and the United States called us first. Well, at first we were like, maybe we're not gonna go. But then we're like, hey, anywhere is better than where we're at right now, right? And then when I came to America, it really hit me, man, how blind and I'm not gonna say uneducated, but uninformed American society is, right? So like
100%.
not one American personally came to me and told me, oh, I hate you, that's why we bombed you. Not one. So I realized it's not the American people, it's our fucked up government, right?
Right.
That did all that stuff, right? It's the foreign policy, right, that we always hear of on TV
Hmm.
and all that stuff. So a couple of years later, man, I learned English really well. I was going to high school. One of my best friends was an American guy. And then I just started loving America, dude, you know, just started loving America, right? And I developed sense of patriotism where in 2005 and 2006, when Iraq was going on, I was going to automotive maintenance school, and I was driving every morning from South Side Chicago to North Side of Chicago, which is about an hour and a half drive through traffic. And I would turn on morning radio every day, right? And it'd be like, oh, 3 soldiers, 2 Marines got killed in Iraq yesterday, and he would like make something boil inside of me.
Mm,
I was like, these motherfuckers, man, like we need to go over there and just fuck them up.
yeah.
And over time, man, in 2009, in 2008, I lost my job, and I was like, you know what, it's time. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. So I decided to go into the military. I didn't want to just join any military. So what I did is I researched, because as individuals, right, sometimes you know things about yourself, right? So to me, I was getting out of shape. I was out of high school for about 4 years, right? I was getting out of shape. I was getting fat, unhealthy, working at this steel mill, right? All this stuff. So I realized I was like, the only thing that can shape me up is the military training. Um, I knew I needed to be shaping up. I had no discipline, nothing, man.
Mm,
So I joined the Marines, and here I am, man. 10 years later, actually 14 years later now.
wow.
I'm a Marine. I did 10 years, and I'm proud of America now, man, because I realized that everything that happened to me as a child, it was not United States as people, right? It's our fucked up foreign policies.
Right. Well, there's the whole military industrial complex, and it's no secret. I mean, things aren't operating on behalf of we the people, of the people, by the people anymore. It's as though our voices have literally been taken away, right? And we've just lost the reins in a sense. So, man, and that's the problem. You touched on the ignorance. Like, wow, as I'm chatting with Aid from the UK and off air, it's wild how we're feeding into like it's amazing to hear a man from the UK know more about America's history than most Americans even know. Like So there's a level of ignorance, but the thing is, like, he can admit even there in the UK how ignorant and blind so many of the people there have become as well. So history's such an important teacher, like actual history, like factual, and they're trying to erase it, they're trying to change that, and it's all by design. And it's essentially to keep us kind of out of the know, not understand the value of our freedoms and the Constitution, and just the beautiful country that we have inherited from, yeah, generation after generation.
And
And just
it is by far the best country in the world, man. You know, I could move back to where I came from right now and just live really good, have a really nice, peaceful life. The war is over, right?
now.
I go back there, but I don't want to. I don't want to
Mm,
because, and it went through my mind a couple times, but I was like, I don't want to give up my guns. Like I'm not
mm,
giving up my guns. Like I can't have guns back then, you know. And I understand the importance of Second Amendment and First Amendment. Like what we're
yeah,
having, the conversation that we're having on this podcast right now, many countries that will lock you up for it, that will fine you for it, you know.
right.
And, you know, unfortunately, the direction that we're heading into in a
Hmm.
few years from now, that might even be happening in America.
Here it
And
is happening to a
yeah,
big extent. That's why the podcast realm has been taking off the way it has, because uh it isn't as censored as your fake book, and Twitter used to be, still slash is, in Instagram and all these mega platforms, and it's no secret that so many patriots that have even kicked off on podcasts and start speaking out on it's irrelevant in a sense whether it's even true or not. Why is an American citizen, the point, they're just speaking their truth and their voice, their bank accounts being seized or their PayPal's being pulled, and all these, they're getting fired, and just all these things. It's already happening here, and it's downright scary. This where it's just, I can't put enough emphasis on, like, we need to stand strong on our First Amendment and free speech. And it's healthy to question things. It's healthy to go down these roads and figure out, because it's collectively we can ensure unity and a better tomorrow for all. And we've been too blindly entrusting into everything from our medical institutions, our government body, just everything, like our food. So
everything, man.
man,
We're being fed poison. The food
yes,
is poison. The water's poison. The
right,
news is bunch of lies.
yep,
You know, the news is interesting, right? Because a lot of people just stare at the TV, right? They don't even understand what they're hearing. Like most people don't have the ability to process information, right?
mm,
I was in college. I have a bachelor's degree in business management. I'm halfway to my master's. Um, but I stopped doing it because um, they would tell me what a credible source is. So I would
mm,
tell the professor, like, in my opinion, that is not a credible source. Like, why can't, when he's like, no, that's a credible source, and these are the only sources you can use. So I'm like, okay, so um, how can I think on my own when you tell me what to read and what to write on this paper? Like, this is not a free thinking society. You know,
right,
I tell them like this, like, hey man, you know, in my opinion, that is wrong. No, that's right. That's why I said in my opinion, right? Can I have an opinion? You know, we
right,
can't have opinions anymore, man. We can't have, you know,
right,
they tell you, they teach you, this is how it works, man. That our education system is so fucked up. Okay, forget my language, right? It's so fucked up that, you know, you go to Google, you research something and you read it, and then let's say you're in school. That's why these 18-year-olds, they get blindsided, they get put into this, they go into college and they become liberals and all this stuff because
an
whatever the professors.
indoctrination camp.
Yep. So one day they can't think on their own, right? And even the ones they do, they stop doing it in a couple of months in school because, you know, they tell them these are the credible sources that you can get your information from. So the teacher and the school is controlled by the same people where the sources are controlled as well. So it's the same information. So if
Mhm.
they hear the wrong information from a professor, then they read it in their credible source, right? Credible source. Then they go do research on their own. They heard it from 3 different angles, and it's the same thing. So they go on believing these things are correct. It is insane what's going on.
Right.
In America, we should always have opinion-based things. Like you should be able to write an essay based on your opinion. Like, why not? So what if it's wrong?
Yeah.
It's okay to be wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's completely gone, man. And one of the reasons I transitioned out of the military and I left early, I was going to do 20 years, is because that's what military's become.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't have your opinion. You can't say anything. Do as you're told. Don't question anything. And, I just think like I didn't go to Iraq or Afghanistan, but I had a bunch of friends, some got blown up, got Purple Hearts, they got shot and all that stuff that would come back. And they start questioning themselves, like, why did I even do all this?
Right.
And that's why a lot of those like hardcore military guys that go to war, they come back and they
Right.
turn against the government because they realize that fought a war,
Yep.
they shouldn't have been fought in the same they shouldn't be fought at all.
Right.
So yeah, man.
I was talking to this young gentleman just the other day at the firing range, and he's anxious to sign up. And I was like, kind of raising this red flag. But it was so refreshing for him, this young man, to say, no, our military is being infiltrated. That's why I'm going. They need more men like me. And it gave me goosebumps, brother, because it was like he saw what was happening, and if everyone just wouldn't, kind of like had the cowardice stance, because that's what was pulling on my heartstrings. 9/11 and things like that happened, and it was just like I wanted to do my part, but there was too many red flags and questions where it was like I don't want to involve you. So all these people were going in droves, and they had the pure intent, like real patriotism, but like they're fighting these fake endless wars, and that's where it's really tough to get behind. That's holy smoke. It'd just be so exciting to see us clean things up and have everything operating as it was designed, and get out the bad actors and no longer infiltrated. And we should be excited to do all these things. And, are we ever going to get it perfect in this mortal life? No. But can we get it a whole heck of a lot better? Absolutely. So we should all be excited to do our part. And that's where I'm just so excited. Like, I mean, we even before we kicked this off, we were talking about a friend of mine and our affiliation and this and that. And I'm just like, you know what? This doesn't even feel like advertising or commercial, or anything like that, because I can 100% get behind what it is. This man right here, Aleks, right here in Black Eagle Apparel, and what you're doing. It's just so important that we support one another with the same morals and the same, essentially ensuring a better tomorrow. It's so important that we take those extra steps. Now, it isn't just Black Eagle Apparel you're involved in. You also are fighting the war of free speech, and you have your own podcast. You're more so catering to stories and other veterans. Is that right?
Entrepreneurs, veterans, right?
Okay.
Anybody that's because I realized, man, a few years ago, like I said, when I got out of the Marines, I realized that the only way to really be independent, be able to do whatever you want, say whatever you want, is if you own your own business, right? So I started
Right.
a podcast just to encourage people to start businesses, right?
That's
Like I don't care what you do, man. I don't care if you're got a little cricket machine and you print 10 shirts a week to somebody like a family member out of your garage. That's fine. Just start something that can turn into a maybe profitable business down the road. I
right.
met one thing about Midwest, people work hard out here. So I met a lot of kids, they're like 19, 20, instead of going to college, they start like gravel hauling business or they start like construction business or something like that. And in a couple of years, man, these kids are doing really well. And they're like, what do I need to go to college for? I'm not
Right.
saying college is a thing for everybody. Obviously, we need doctors, we need lawyers, we need all this stuff, but
Well, you need to
not
be
everybody's
selective. Like Charlie Kirk, on his podcast was talking. I mean, what he's doing with Turning Point USA has been amazing, fighting back on that indoctrination, and that's been blowing up. So if you were to end up on a campus, be sure to join one of those chapters, because you could surround yourself with like-minded critical thinkers that are healthily questioning things, even questioning why we're here, and being guided by biblical truths and God and things of that nature too. It's so crucial. There's nothing more important really to assist us along our path here than those biblical truths. And it's just, so there are still decent campuses out there. Just do your due diligence and look into it. But yeah, to your point, it's really not, all the real value has more so been taken out of those institutions by design than actually. I mean, it has kind of just become a worthless piece of paper. There's so many folk that are a part of even the unemployment bracket right now that have 4-year degrees and beyond. And so it's, let's bring the meaning back into that by getting involved, let our voices be heard, and ensure that the value gets put back into these things.
I encourage young people these days to go into a trade
Yeah,
more than anything else. Go be a plumber, go be a mechanic, right? I was a mechanic for 17 years, man.
real life
Um, you know,
experience.
yeah, you actually go out there and you learn something. You can, get hired on in a shop just cleaning oil for, a year, whatever minimum wage, but it's the best on-job training you're gonna get, right?
Right,
You go learn
right.
a trade, you go learn how to turn wrenches, do things that mechanics do, and go find a good job, open up a shop, start, it's so easy to start a mechanic business, man. I started it before. In 2020, my apparel business went down because I took on some contracts and they got canceled and I paid for services. Long story, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I had to shut down my business in 2020 and I just reopened it this year. Um, but I did mechanics for about 8 months. I made more money in 8 months doing mechanics than anybody in my neighborhood with their college degrees.
Mm.
And I was working from my garage, from my home, eating home cooked food out of my garage, man. I made more money than most people, in a nice little dress up suit or whatever, going to a place of work and all that stuff. Um, so that's why I tell people, like, we're coming to the point where trades are being valued more than college degrees,
Yeah.
because right now, man, it's more expensive. Like lawyers right now, like perfect example, I'm dealing with some lawyer stuff. Like they're fighting to bring their rates down so they take on clients, right?
Mm.
I never had an issue like that when a plumber comes to my house or a roofer or anybody. They just tell you this is what it is. If you call another one, it's probably going to be more
Yeah.
because there's such a low population of people that do those jobs right now that they can charge whatever they want. If you like, what am I going to do? Let my house leak? Of course, I'm going to
Yeah.
get my roof fixed. I have to get it fixed. Otherwise, the rest of the house is gone, right? So
Yep.
you can pay whatever it takes for their roof to get fixed. And roofers, like I said, how many kids right now, think about our generation, they're like, let's say 18, that in next couple of years, they're going to be fully in the workforce. How many are looking at a house and be like, hey, I want to be a roofer? Not many. They
Yep.
can't even swing a hammer, bro.
Right.
That's why I'm concerned for our country over the next 10, 20, 30 years, because just think about what's coming, what are we raising? I'm very tough on my kids. And I tell them right now, you might not like it. One day you're going to love it, right? Because you're going to be ahead of everybody else. I want to
Right.
raise champions. I don't want to raise pussies.
Yeah.
So I have two daughters and a son, and I raise them differently. I tell
Right.
my son, you're a man. One day you're going to be a man of the house. You're going to take care of your wife, your kids. You're going to work hard all day long, right? Your family is your responsibility. And my
Mm.
daughters, I raise them like one day you're going to take care of your husband, right? You're going to take care of your kids. You're going to have your own family, right? It's important to keep that family structure that they're trying to take
Yes.
apart so bad.
Yes.
So yeah, man.
Wow. Well, I love your strong can-do attitude, because even with all this war that's being waged on the hearts and the minds, like it literally is fifth generation warfare. And if you guys haven't acknowledged, it's all at our doorstep and it's been there for some time now. we just haven't been familiarized with it like we more so are familiarized with fourth, third, or second gen warfare, where literally you're dodging bullets, right? And if you look around us, even amongst all this trial, like kind of challenged societal, infiltrated environment we have, we're still in a place of abundance, more so than famine. Like more than ever, we have so many tools at our disposal, through, I mean, even just information with the wealth of knowledge on, I hate to say it, but YouTube and I mean now Rumble and things like that, where for trades you can on a short video pretty much learn how to swing that hammer, fix that toilet, do plumb. I mean, anything, right? Like to have that right at your disposal, you can self educate, you can self promote. The options really are endless. So evil's been effective in our minds and in our hearts, and wanting us to essentially suck on the government teat in a sense, and ask for handouts and this and intentionally creating weaker and weaker broken families, to where we become dependent more so than independent, and be excited to wake up every day, engage in something you love and you strive for. And um, there's just so much at our disposal now.
It
It's
starts,
just
dude, you got to realize it. Number one, like I'm telling you, man, I came to America, I got a job, I made more money than both of my parents combined. And I was like 19, right?
right.
So what did I do? What every 19-year-old does, right? While the smart guys were, saving their money, investing their money, I was just blowing my money, right? I was buying motorcycles and Mustang Cobras and boats and, doing all this dumb shit that everybody else does. That's what society told us is a good thing, right? Um, a lot of people do that for the rest of their life. I kind of like pulled back and I was like, what did I do? Like I realized I wasted my life away. You know what I mean? So like right now, my kids, man, like my daughter's 8. And what really makes me proud father, right? The other day I was like, hey, what would you like? She goes, I want a sewing machine, daddy. And I'm
Mm,
like, sewing machine for what? She's like, I want to sew things. I was like, okay, so like what? I want to make my Barbies like dresses and stuff. Cool, no
mm.
problem. So I bought her a sewing machine, and dude, she loves it. So now I'm getting her an embroidery machine, and I'm going to teach her how to embroider. So guess what I'm doing
Wow.
right now with my embroidery? My embroidery is getting outsourced to somebody else. When I have a kid in the house, so my kids are homeschooled. So why can her, I
Mm.
don't know, 3 hours a day, her arts and crafts class be embroider for your dad and make a few bucks today as a kid? You know what I mean? So instead of sending her to school where they're going to tell her, hey, do you feel like a boy today? Yep, you can be a boy, right? She's learning, family values like hard work, right? Dedication, get up early, right? Doing things for yourself, like don't depend on somebody else. Because schools, there's a guy in my financial industry, right? I'm part of financial industry as well. I have an office here in Joplin, Missouri, but um, there's a guy, his name's Paul Hart. He says public or private education, public school or private school, doesn't matter. They're both designed to do the same thing, is to make you an employee, right? A
Mm.
good employee, right? So what I teach my kids is like their lessons. I'm like, number one, I just, we're in the house and I'm like, hey, number one, I will never be an employee, right? Number two, I will always work for myself. Number three, I will always respect my mom and dad. Number four, right? So we have things in the house that my kids memorize and they live by that. We live by it. How can I tell my kid one day you're gonna own a business and I'm gonna go get a job? When honestly, like at the beginning stages of business, it's easier to have a job,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Income comes in, like it's not up and down, it's steady, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you got to sacrifice things. So, what are we teaching our kids? What are they watching us, right?
Mm.
What are we instilling in our kids? So, my daughter wants to do sewing. She wants to do embroidery. Dude,
Yeah.
I will no shit hire her and
Yeah.
I will buy her everything she needs so she can learn. And so,
Mm-hmm.
what, in 2, 3 years from now, if she's my embroidery person, I would rather give her the money than somebody else. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I love how you followed her in that moment in her interests, and yeah, really spent the time engaging with her
You gotta
regarding
support them,
yeah.
dude. You gotta support the kids. So, you give them, you can't tell them no, right? So
Yeah.
parenting is very, very hard, man. It's very hard.
Yeah.
You gotta it's a fine line between raising a robot that just follows orders, right? And raising a free thinker within like left and right lateral limits, right? So it's one of those things like you tell them no, that is wrong, but let's go this way, you can do this. You know what I
Right.
mean? So you don't want to stop their thinking, because like most of us as kids, we have all these ambitions. We have one, and this is like my podcasting kind of, right? This is
Oh,
what we
cool.
talk about. We talk about just like thinking big and going out of the way. And, so it starts at the childhood, right? You
Hmm.
read a bunch of books out there by like Ed Milet, Tony Robbins, all of these guys. You're going to learn that you can't tell your kid no all the time. If you just tell them no all the time, that's what they're used to hearing. And they become a person that can just hear yes. So you can steer them in a, can I do this? No. Can you start your business? No. Can you go get a job? Yes. Okay. They just, okay, I'm gonna go get a job. Can I make 500,000 a year? No. Can I make 50,000? Yes. Okay. They take that because it's the easy, and that's a yes, right? So you gotta be able to stop them from doing things that are gonna do them harm, but retake all that and kind of put it in a productive way
Mm.
where they want to do it, they want to be on their own, they want to be their own boss and all that stuff, right? So it's a fine line, man. Like I'm learning it every day.
Right.
Uh, but I have a great wife, man. My wife's awesome. She does most of the stuff. I mostly work. I just follow her lead in a sense.
That's so awesome. How
Yeah.
how long you been together with your wife?
11 years, man. A little over 11 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 3 kids.
That's pretty much the fuel to your drive, no doubt at this point.
Everything I do is my kids, man. My
Mm.
kids, like you gotta set standards for your family, right? I don't know if you know who Ed Milet is, but for those of you guys that are listening, look up a guy named Ed Milet. That dude changed my life. He said that if you look at most families, they're born poor, right? Most families. But then if you look at the successful people, they're also born poor. So what happened? Somewhere in that line, like family line down the line, right? When you look at it, somebody said, enough is enough. I'm going to change the trajectory of my family,
Mm.
right? And they're the ones that go out there and sacrifice, right? They're the ones that start businesses and fail and lose and get into debt and get out of debt and get screwed over and have business partners quit on them and all this stuff,
Mhm.
right? But after all that fighting, they come to the point where now their family set for generations, right? And they can just teach that to their kids and their grandkids and everybody, and just keeps going, kind of like Rockefellers and all these other guys that we hear about, right? So
Mm.
I looked at it as that's me. Like I'm gonna be that guy. Like we come from nothing, right? I'm gonna be the guy that's gonna sacrifice. I don't care what it takes, so that way my family can have a good life. And I'm talking like my kids. He starts with my kids, and then he's gonna move down to my grandkids and my great grandkids and whatever, hopefully one day. But it all starts with me. And a lot of us always, it's easy to blame your dad and your mom, or my mom was
Mhm.
a drug addict, and oh, I didn't have a great upbringing. Like if you didn't have a great upbringing, that's a perfect formula for success.
Mm.
Like Bill Gates, right? He's very successful. I don't like him personally, but he's very successful. But his
Yeah.
kids are shits, right? His kids are losers. So like
Oof.
all that shit that they had, they just threw it away, right? So um, you want to take some family's value with success and pass them down into your kids and your grandkids as well.
Mhm.
So my goal, like one of my standards, is my daughter will never have a job. Like she will never have a boss. Like she will never go home to her husband and her kids and say, my boss pissed me off today. Like that's my standard.
Mm.
If my daughter has to go get a job and she's not a CEO of her company or my company or something like that, I failed as a father. That's how I look at it, right?
Oh,
It's a
wow.
high standard that I set for myself, because that's the only way that we can get out of this day-to-day just zombie mode. Like
Right.
just what my boss tells me, hey, here's these folders, these are the tasks you got to do for the day. You just do them, you go home, you're miserable, stuck in traffic. Like if we
Mhm.
want to get out of that, we have to think bigger. We have to set some type of standards, man. And that's my standards. Like my
I
daughters
love
drive
it.
me more than anything, man. I got two little daughters, right? One is 8, one is 2. And I'm like, my daughters will never have a boss. That's my standard. And
Right.
I don't care what it takes. I don't care if I got to work next 20 years. I don't care if I have to have 17 businesses and never sleep and work day and night 24/7. That is my standard, and that's what I'm going to accomplish. That's how I look at it.
Alec, I love it. I hope this ends up contagious a bit for the listeners. Like, I'm gonna go get some. And this was so crazy. I don't know why it popped in my head. We even talked a bit about like Walmart and these big companies. And I mean, it's just crazy. You think about it. We start supporting companies like yours and go out of our way in that regard versus these convenient mega stores that do not share our same morals and values. In fact, and to your point earlier, yes, we're supporting some of their employees or what have you, but if we support your company, like there's a big difference because Walmart is putting, it's no secret, all this money towards things that is hurting our economy, putting more into this woke agenda, indoctrination, money towards like even infiltrating, like having a negative impact on uh our government structure, everything. So it's like, wow, the more we could support independent, we cannot drive that nail home hard enough where the more it's just a call to action, the more we could support companies like that. Like you just think about it, you start dissecting that specific store, how much opportunity there is for patriots to start creating all sorts of different products, all sorts of, and if we start gravitating towards that, like we literally could get back to a place of abundance for all, get rid of the famine mentality. And I mean, sky's the limit. We just started going to, we sold all of our morals, we sold all of our values out of convenience in a way,
That's it.
just just convenience. And it's like, oh, and to save a buck. And it's like, well, that's actually astronomically like detrimental to our whole economy. By saving that buck, we could have more thriving economy and more abundance. So it's kind of a new thing for that I'm even grasping myself, but it's just, frick, listeners, let's unite, let's organize, let's support men like this and get creative. And that's where, this platform is all about ensuring a better tomorrow and supporting
I always
people
tell
that,
people,
yeah.
I always tell people, man, when you go buy anything in these big stores,
Hmm.
if you buy something from me, you're supporting a family, right? And I'll make everybody one promise: I will never go corporate. My
Mm,
business, I don't care how big it can grow to a multi-billion-dollar corporation. It will never have a board. It will
mm,
never be publicly traded company where they can implant their freaking, terrorists. That's what I call them, company business
mm,
terrorists that,
yeah.
tell them, oh, no, you can't make that product anymore. It's too offensive, or, oh, you have to be doing this from now on. And it's always going to be a family owned business, whether I run it, my kids, whoever runs it. If I own it, and I'm never going to sell it, so I'm going to own it forever. My goal is to never sell it, because there's other companies out there that started like me, and they became corporations and publicly traded companies, and the quality went to crap. The content became watered down, right? I'm not going to mention any company names because I don't want to give them free advertisement. I'm pretty sure you all know who I'm talking about.
Man.
But there's a lot of them. Everything became watered down, and now their stuff is watered down. And people come to me and they say, man, you don't see shirts like this anymore. And I'm like, well, my stuff is not watered down. They're like,
Hmm.
oh, I can't wear that to school. I can't wear that to work. And we're in the Midwest. Like, this is
Mm,
I believe in America, like Midwest where I live, is the most patriotic. Like, I picked a county to live in, Newton County, Missouri, right? Where I think the closest blue county is like 60 miles away or 100 miles away or something like that, right? It's like there's nothing blue around here anywhere near me, right? And this is what it's coming. So like the big corporations, like he mentioned earlier, right? You buy their product, they take their money and they put it into the politicians. Politicians
yep.
you know, the what are they, Secretary of Education and all of these guys that pass down these rules and regulations like, hey, we can't wear a Second Amendment shirt to school anymore, right? The kids can't do that. You know, I would never do that. And that's why I pledge to everybody that this company will always be family owned, and I will never do anything like that. I will never take my money, put it into politics or any of that. It's going to go to feed my family, expand my business further, and spread patriotism to America. That's my goal. And this is coming from an immigrant that got bombed by American planes. So put that
Right.
into your head and think about what I just said, right? So there's a reason for everything, you know?
Well, you more than most actually understand the importance of freedom, right? And like the Constitution that was established even here, right? Wow.
I
That's
never understood people that are against our rights. Um, you can't say that, and they're like scream at you and all that stuff. Why not? You say
yeah.
stupid shit all the time. You don't see
Yeah.
me screaming. See, the problem is there's two sides, right? Our
Yes.
side is, you know, I can see somebody wearing a shirt that says Joe Biden's the best president. I might think they're an idiot, right? But hey, it's their right to wear it. I'm not
Right.
offended by it.
100%. Yes.
Um, it doesn't trigger me. It doesn't trigger me, right? It's like, hey
Mm.
man, you believe that? Congratulations. Make sure you vote for Biden again. That is your right as an
Yep.
American citizen, right? The problem is when the other side tries to tell us what's right, what's not. You know,
Exactly.
that's the problem. When they
It's
try to
like that
suppress,
meme. Didn't I send you that meme just what yesterday or that picture where it was about truth
yes,
where truth doesn't mind being questioned like at all. Go ahead. Question truth. Let's have that conversation. Now a
yeah,
lie on the other hand does not like to be questioned at all and they get awful loud
exactly.
about it because they got no
Hmm.
foundation to stand on. So when you pull that rug from underneath it, of course they're going to go screaming. Yeah.
Yes, it's
Like
pretty messed up, man,
really.
because they don't understand. You know, they call us Nazis and all this stuff. Is, you know, my country fought against Nazis just like America did. You know,
Mhm.
and a lot of my people died fighting
Wow.
Nazis. Like we lived it. Like America was never occupied by Germany. My country was. My grandpa was occupied by Germans. He was like a teenager, right? He was born in
Wow.
1936. So not even a teenager. He was like five or six
Mhm.
years old when former Yugoslavia was occupied by Germany. So he saw it firsthand, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and you know, he told me a few stories and stuff like that. But they think we're Nazis. No, Nazis are the ones that prevent other people from
Yep.
speaking and expressing themselves. So, like,
They're
I
they're
like
literally
guns,
projecting all of this when in fact they themselves are the one fulfilling what they're projecting. And it's
100%.
working. It's working. People are drinking that up like because it's so buttoned up. It's got nice logos and they're so, charismatic and dressed nice and talking heads and they all have the same talking points. Guys, you got to understand how effectively manipulative this has been. That's why we got to get off that. We got to source our information in an information age.
It's you gotta think of everything. Like I don't listen to news, any news, because
Mm.
100% of the news is controlled. It's
Yep.
filtered, right?
Yep.
If they say, "Oh, this might have happened," no, that didn't happen. That happened plus 100 times more.
Mm-hmm.
100%. They're watering it down, right?
Yep.
Like the shit that's happening in Israel and Gaza, I'm not following by any chance. I just know something's
Oh
happening.
man,
They're probably
it's a
lying, right?
circus. Yeah, it's a
You
circus.
know, so don't like I was in a situation where Ukrainians are at right now. Like I lived in that situation. I'm gonna tell you right now, it doesn't matter what you hear on the news. Now one
Mm.
Ukrainian is happy that's fighting there. Now one fucking Russian soldier is happy that's fighting there.
Right.
Either sides are suffering, right? They're both suffering. So whatever the news tells you that, hey, if you send them another $15 billion, it's gonna help them buy new planes and shit. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because out of that 15 billion, maybe half a billion is going to get to them. Everything else is going to go through to the CEOs of airplane companies and
Mm-hmm.
to Joe Biden's pocket and to senators'
Mm-hmm.
pockets and all of it. How do you think they're all becoming millionaires? They said number one thing to become a
Mm-hmm.
millionaire right now is be a politician.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
when's that? Like, so in a sense, they're the true entrepreneurs, right? You're an entrepreneur. Like, you start out, you don't really have any product or nothing, right? But you become a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
That's an entrepreneur. You create multi-millions out of nothing, right? So
It's
don't
clear
trust
as
it. I
day.
wouldn't trust
Yeah.
it.
With the Biden family and everything that's coming out of that Hunter laptop, like on those corrupt connections amongst like even evil content, let's just be real. It's directly like they didn't provide any services and we're millions upon millions. Like they have the receipts. There's no explanation. I mean, it's not even an assumption. You don't even have to make an assumption at this point. You scratch your head, you look at enough of the content, and you know exactly what's happening.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah. Well,
it's
there's blind people that don't see it because they don't want to see it, right? So there's this. So ego, right? Ego will ruin you. If you have a
right.
big ego, man, you're most likely not gonna make anything out of yourself in your life, right? And this is what's happening with most liberals right now. They've been duped, right? Everything
Yeah.
sounded great.
Hmm.
If you live in San Francisco, oh man, 20 years ago, it was great. Liberalism, freedom, all this stuff, right? But now when a one-bedroom apartment is $5,000 a month to rent, and there's homeless shitting and pissing on your fucking corner where you live at $5,000 a month, right? And you go buy a gallon of milk and it's $9 a gallon and $20 for a carton of eggs and all that stuff. You don't
Hmm.
like it, but your ego won't let you drop what you believe in, right? You're not gonna admit to yourself that you got duped. So what's gonna happen
Right.
is you're gonna run with whatever you've been duped with for the rest of your life.
All the
And
way to your own incarceration or
100%,
death.
100%, man.
Some of these folks are going to go all the way. I love eating humble pie. Like that is how we grow from
Yes.
losing, from failures, from admitting and seeing what you did wrong, how you could do better. That's actually fulfilling the very purpose as to why we're here because we're so all individually perfectly imperfect, you know?
Yes. We're
And
all,
will
nobody's
never
perfect, man.
arrive entirely. It's a forever pursuit in this mortal existence.
Yep. You have to, man. Um, you know how many times I've been wrong in my life?
Oh, bro.
Like
Right.
if I was gonna go back, dude, if I can go back to only 19, so 18 years ago, I'm 37 now. So if I can go 18 years back and have this mindset, man, I would redo my life completely over.
Right.
See, when we make a mistake, is people like, oh, it's too late. No, it's never too late. I started in my mid 30s, man. I started to
Yeah.
develop into a person. I started to develop into a businessman that I need to become, into a father, into a husband, into everything in my mid 30s. It's
Yeah.
dude, I got married at 26. I was
Wow.
not ready for marriage, man. I was a
Did
shithead.
God play a role for you in this transition for you, like actually, boom, like getting it?
So for a very long time, I didn't believe in God. Very long time until about 2.5 years ago, right?
Wow.
Almost 3 years ago, right? And what happened is, I'll tell you a quick story, right? So
Okay.
I lived through refugee camps, civil wars. We've been bombed. I've been starved. We lived in basements. Actually, I'm writing a book called Trump's Immigrant. I'm gonna try and publish it this coming year because of the elections. I think the name would catch on really well.
Mm,
Uh, I think it would sell pretty good, right? But I write everything about all of it in the book. But I've been through all of these things in my life, and I was like, if God exists, why would He put me through all this? So I had resentment against God. So
right.
for a long time, I was like, God doesn't exist, right? Like it's all a lie, blah blah blah, right? But then about a few years ago, there's few events that happened in my life, and what really sealed it for me, right? So we were moving to the Midwest from Las Vegas. This was in March of 2021, so almost 3 years ago. And we moved here. And moves are very, very expensive. So me and my wife, we had a budget. We put a budget into our checking account. We're like, that's our budget for moving, right? We moved here and we still had like, man, we moved and we're like, man, we're like $800 short. Like we overspent by $800. So we're like, okay, we only lived on this address for about three days, right? We're still waiting for our furniture to come in. We're like sleeping on a blow up mattress and stuff, right? Um, we moved into our house, And what happened is I was like, yeah, we're $800 short. Like we're gonna have to transfer another $800. Like we under budgeted for $800 or we overspent $800, one or the other, right? And dude, we're about to do that. And I go down to the mailbox and there's a check in the box, right? For $803.46.
Get out of here.
So check
Okay.
this out. So the check is from a water and electric company that me and my wife lived in this apartment. Well, actually, we rented a house in Fallbrook, California when I was stationed out there in 2014, right? Apparently, we overpaid our electric and water bill by $803.46, right? And so let me, like, I don't even know my address yet. I literally lived here for 3 days, right? The
Mm,
only way I knew it because I wrote it down on a piece of paper, right? And there's a check from a water. When was the last time electric company reimbursed you back?
never.
7 years later. 7 years later, right?
Oh my
So
gosh.
none of that stuff, right? And all of a sudden, there's a check in my mailbox, and I open it. I was like, $803. Like, told my wife, like, look, babe, we just said that we're $800. That we're $800 short. That we under budgeted, right? Or overspent $800. And look, check for $800. She's like, what's that from? I was like, well, it's from San Diego County Water and Electric or whatever it was. I forgot what it was called, SDG&E or something like that. And she's like, for real? She's like, we didn't live there for like 7 years. I'm like, yep. And that was, so I started like kind of like, okay, there's got to be something out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I started kind of like researching things, man. And I just bumped into a lot of things along the way. About maybe 3, 4 months after that, I full on started believing in God. I started reading the Bible.
Mm,
Uh, I was just like, there's got to be something out there, man, that's watching out for me. Because I just went through all the events in my life. And I was like, I can't even believe I made it through all that. And I'm still sane and normal, right?
yeah.
Uh, so I was like, okay, God's real. The God pushed me and pulled me through all of this stuff. And from now on, man, I based everything off of that.
Wow.
That
That's
was
amazing.
that was a really, really, really crazy event. That just like I was like, there's no way this is a coincidence. Something out there, is watching out for me, So
100%.
yeah, so that's how I started believing in God, man. Everybody has a story, that one's mine, right?
That so for everyone to pay attention in their own lives and not because it's easy, like evil here and our pride and ego and kind of our defective wiring would have us almost shut that door in God's face as these moments show up in our lives. And it's to our own detriment when we do that because a lot of people are fearful. They don't want to face themselves and their own character defects. And you know, they can't even fathom entrusting in creator that you really can't see, touch, smell, taste like you can, like you experience everything else in this life. It's hard to entrust in that when we constantly get our trust gets trampled on left and right in this existence. So like we develop all these scars. So it becomes, but that's what's insane. Like that is the only source you can fully entrust. And it's not until you pursue that road and develop that faith, develop that trust that like it becomes clear, like, whoa, I had my priorities all
Messed up.
incorrect. Yeah, messed up. No wonder. And that was kind of an eye-opening experience for me. No wonder like my life relations was number one challenge in this life over life-threatening illnesses and life-threatening situations. Like, shouldn't have that been number one? How does my life relations keep creeping up to like number one challenge in this existence? Because I didn't understand why we were here. I didn't feel God's love for me individually so profoundly that I had my own established faith. Like I didn't understand. And it's
So
pretty interesting. Oh, go
yeah, go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead, read it.
Oh, well, it was December ticked over and I was excited. And this is a constant pursuit, just like the gym. We got to constantly seek to understand Otherwise, we get soft. And I don't know what it was, but these spoke to me so well. And I'm such a slow read. I was even debating, oh, is this maybe something I should go over? But December 1st, right here, this daily devotionals from Think on These Things, Wisdom for Life from Proverbs. It's titled Fearful Pitfalls. The way of a guilty man is perverse, but as for the pure, his work is right. And it just goes on saying, the ungodly are like the lost sheep that have turned to their own way. Every one of them has gone astray. And so it is understandable when they fall into a ravine or are devoured by wolves. Christians, however, know that life is filled with fearful pitfalls, and they are aware of them because God has opened the eyes of their understanding. They also know that the deep pits are often surrounded by attractive flowers that beckon to be picked. Apologies, I just had a call there. When adultery, fornication, pornography, or other sensual sins beckon, they don't hear. This is because they have reckoned their sinful desires dead, and in doing so have rendered the wolf unable to harm them. Through their faith in the cleansing of the blood of the Savior, they are seen as pure, and their work is right in the eyes of the Holy God. It's like, how do I view sin? Do I see it as risky pleasure or fearful pitfall? And then there's a nice little prayer here. But in this one, I won't even dive into, say, the actual reading for the day, which is just amazing. And this is the Jesus Calling daily devotional. But just this little December quote, it just really resonated so profoundly. It was just, for to us a child is born, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And my challenge is just like, my gosh, I desire a relation with this Prince of Peace, right? Because I felt the peace and everlasting, wonderful counselor. There isn't a better counselor in this world than in the Bible itself. Like, I don't care how educated mortally you are. Sorry, you're second, maybe third, fourth, fifth, whatever. This is number one. Number one counselor, true wisdom, true healing, true everything. So, I mean, if you want to keep sweeping that under the rug, if you want to keep closing that door, just know it's to your own detriment. Like I did it for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's situation's different. Some, for most, it takes a level of like rock bottom, or it takes really challenging events or true miracles for a lot of people to actually start seeking that for themselves.
You know,
Anyway,
change is really hard, man. It's really hard. When you're
right,
used to, so like if we're young and we develop bad habits, right? Like if you're like, I don't know, 18, 19, you start hanging out with your buddies, you're drinking every night or every weekend, you're doing this, you're hooking up with girls and blah, blah, blah. Dude, it's hard to change that. Like it's like
right,
one of the hardest things you're gonna do, man. But if you keep doing that, one day you're gonna wake up. This is what happened to me, man. You know, I woke up one day and I was like, holy crap, like I am behind. Like I am behind. Like I looked at everybody that's actually devoted their life to something. It doesn't matter if it's a job or a business or whatever, they were my age. And I was like, man, I am behind. And I was one of those lost sheep that you just mentioned, right? They
yeah,
just didn't believe in anything and just, you know, every day just look for something new to do. Yeah, like no plan, no freaking no work. Like I have work ethic. I always work hard, but like I always put my hard work into wrong things,
mm,
if that makes sense. You know,
yeah,
I would work hard for a job for my boss, but I wouldn't work hard for myself. Right. When I was in the Marines, I'd put in like, you know, I think the longest I've ever worked in the Marines is like 48-hour shift or 56-hour shift. straight through. But then when it came to work, let's say I would sit down and I'd say, okay, from now on, I'm going to go to the gym, I don't know, for next 6 months every day, right? Or 6 times a week. I always skipped. I always became lazy when I was working on myself. And honestly, man, over the last, like I said, 2.5, 3 years since I found myself, right? I kind of found who I am, who I want to be. That's the hardest thing to do, man. You know, I skipped around from different business. I started this business, I didn't like it, I shut it down. I started this one, I didn't like it. A lot of people looked at me like, oh, you can't take anything seriously. No, is if I want to commit to something for the rest of my life, right, I want to make sure it's something I want to do, right?
Mm,
That's why
right.
right now I work, I work 120-hour week. People like, you're freaking
Jeez.
crazy. But to
Yeah.
me, it doesn't work. It doesn't look crazy because I love what I do.
Wow.
Dude, when I go to, like, let's say Walmart or something, I run into somebody that's wearing my shirt around here, bro. Like, I feel good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That gives me energy to keep on working, doesn't matter how long. So for those of you guys out there, they're struggling finding out who you are, man. I
Mm,
do recommend, like, find a church, find a group of people that believe in themselves. Businessmen is a great place to start because a lot of businessmen, they already know who they are. They're not seeking somebody else's approval, none of that stuff.
mm,
And that's how you find God, when you find who you are, right?
right.
Um, and then God takes you through everything else, man. So, like, I'm not scared of attacking any challenge from now on. I don't even think, I just do, right? I'm like,
That's
okay,
awesome.
this, I was like, is this gonna be hard? Yes, let's freaking do it. I'm not scared of failing. I don't care if I lose money. I don't care if it goes through, because I believe at the end, whether it's 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, whenever, I'm gonna be on top, right? And I believe God's gonna help me get there, right? So I know it turned kind of into like a mentoring session, but if you guys are out there just trying to figure out who you are, man, I would say first thing, drop everything bad out of your life. So if it's like drinking, drugs, whatever you're doing, then start surrounding yourself by the people that you want to, like, you look at them, you're like, man, I'd like to be like that person. Okay, start hanging out with them. Go for a drinks with them.
Wow, Alex, that's amazing. And this is what I was trying to capture from you. You say, I'm over here just kind of smiling because you're like, oh, this kind of turned into a mentoring session, and I'm just like, this is gold. I want people to understand the attraction I had to getting into business with you, supporting you, and that's it. That's it right there. That's, guys, what you
Good, man.
see is what you get with this individual. He's a great man. I'm really excited to see what we can do together. So let's all support him. Check out his material. I want to challenge you. I want a very simple shirt with Jesus loves you. That's it. Jesus
Yeah,
loves you.
yeah.
Uh get that maybe even up on your webpage or something, but I want to start rocking that in these crazy days we're in. If someone wants to take offense to that, hey, more power to you. That's your choice.
Dude,
But
I
I
don't I don't
feel
care if they do, man. I don't care if they,
right.
like, I
That's
don't, like,
I
attack
know
me,
what
say whatever you want. Like, I don't care, dude. Like, it's
it'll brighten people's hearts. I know. You're right. It could be 1,000 haters as long as it brightens one individual as I'm out there walking through the day. And I know for me, I'll be that one person because I'll see that reflection occasionally, and I'll read those words as though they are for me, right? And I know that will brighten my day, and it's so simple. And I think futuristically, I've already started like a scripture list with some pretty profound things. As I thought, yeah, it's important, like the patriotic sayings, all these other things, but also just the biblical truths, like getting right to it. Because for me, in this crazy world, all roads do lead to God, because it's like, man, why are we getting so absorbed in the here and the now and the making it? And so much of that is important because it's a means to an end for those we love, the experiences we had, to where we can more so focus on maximum impact, right? And doing all that. And we've been too self-serving
everything.
in a sense.
Everything is in the unseen and manifestation. What you can manifest with your own mind. That's
Yeah.
what people don't understand. God, you don't see him, but if you believe in him, he will lead you to where you need to be, right?
Right.
What do we see? People always want the things that we see: a nice car, a nice house, nice watch, whatever you're into, right? But it's not
Yep.
about that, man. And ever since I realized that, now I'm okay with drive. It's like I was the guy that I had to have the nicest Mustang. I had to have a nicest truck. I bought it.
Yeah.
Now I'm happy. I want to lift it. I want to put tires on it, right?
Yep.
Like I was seeking other people's approval. And what do you think about my truck,
Yes.
right? But it wasn't about that, man. You know, a year and a half ago, I sold my truck. I'm driving a rinky-dinky, like a little Escape, right?
There
That
we
gets
go.
me around, does everything. Like I don't care. But what I believe in now, and I know where that's going to get me to in 5 and 10 or 15 and 20, my mind, right? Where it's going to get me to next 20, 30 years. Um, and you have to believe in it for that long. Like you can't go like I'm speaking specifically business wise, spiritual way too, but like business wise, right? You can't start a
Right.
business 6 months doesn't work, or I'm gonna shut it down. I'm gonna go back get a job, right? It takes
Mm.
decades sometimes. You know, there's people like what they say, like 90% of businesses are in red first 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means you grind it for 5 years, you didn't make a dime, and you're still grinding the same way, right?
Mm.
It's not about the money. It's not like to me, it's not about money. I don't care if it's millions of dollars or whatever it is. Like to me, it's about being who I am, being happy with what I'm doing, right?
Yes.
What I'm gonna make for my family means more. If I make a steady small business and that's all it stays, and my family can live off of it, my kids can take it over and then move it on down the road, and it feeds my
Mm.
family. That's all I care about. It doesn't have to be a obviously we all aim for multi-millions and billions and all that other stuff, but it's not about that. It's about doing it correctly, be true to yourself, um, do things that you want to do on your own terms. You will never
Yes.
find a happier person than the ones that lives on their own terms. You
Mm.
know, I believe that world is so mad these days because no one lives on their own terms.
Mm.
Think about it. You get up at 6 a.m., you got to be at work by 7:30 or 8. You're driving through traffic, you're stuck in traffic for an hour. You name one person that says, "Hey, I'm going to get up this morning and go be stuck in traffic for an hour and a half." You know, they don't exist. So they're not living life on their own terms, right?
Yep.
Somebody else dictates how long it's going to take him to get to work, right? You know, then they work for a boss they don't like, right? And they do that for 8 hours. Then they get off, then they're stuck for another hour in traffic, right? They come home, they're completely physically and emotionally drained. They
Mm.
can't do anything else. They can't be themselves. So they're assholes to their wife, to their kids, to her husband, to, you know, whatever. Marriages break up, you know, divorces happen, all that stuff because people are not true to themselves. Like, what do you want to do? You got to figure that out
Mm.
first, right?
I
And you
love that. And you gave prime examples to like some of your start where you kicked off this business and it nope, and then kicked off this one and nope, because ultimately at end of the day, you wanted to feel like this isn't work, right? And I think probably without even maybe even understanding or noticing, like it led you to like more so selfless service and providing that really filled that cup. Like you're a true patriot and a saint, and without even really probably fully grasping it, like
I
that's
love
what's
what I do,
filling you
man.
up. Yeah.
I love what I do. And it's, you know, we live in the greatest country in the world, man. If we don't do it here and now, it's just,
Yeah.
we have to, like, think about what America started off as, you know,
Right.
it's, you know, freedom, right? Freedom, Second Amendment. Right. I got to
Yep.
throw that in there. And then
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, man, is what built this country, you know, businesses, individualism. That's what, like, you should be proud to be who you are. I don't care if you're the weirdest person in the room. You need to be
Mm.
proud about you. Like, you need to feel proud about yourself because um, if we're all
Well,
the same,
comfortable in your own skin, right? Like I try staying away from pride, the word pride or proud, like, but there's a healthy sense to it, whereas like you're comfortable in your skin, you're excited on who you are, you're
yes,
solid on your foundation, you're excited who you're becoming, right?
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you always got to learn something new. Like,
Yeah.
don't let a day go by and don't learn something new. Like, this is the biggest
Mm.
mistake people make is they go to school, they learn a trade or a job, or they go to college, get a degree or whatever, and then they stop learning, right?
Right.
What they do is they get a job, and now, like I said, they fall into the norms of society, like hour to work, 8 hours for a dickhead boss, then hour back home, right? Then what do you do after that? You hate, you hate yourself. You don't want to read. You don't want to advance. You hate your job, but you never really step out and say, you know what? If I maybe read something every day before I go to work or after
Hmm.
I come back from work, maybe my mindset would develop into something else. That's what happened to me, man. What changed me the most is Trump's speech in 2015.
Mm.
Changed my life. I saw this guy. I came back from a hard day of work in the Marines. I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan. I turned on the TV, AFN, Armed Forces Network. It was the news, right, for Armed Forces. Turned it on, boom, Trump. I'm like, who is this guy? Right? I just loved the speech, bro. I was like, oh my God. Like this guy is God. I don't even know who he's got my vote. Let me just research who he is. And I actually did some research, man, and I realized that he's a very big businessman. He writes books. So I'm like, let me order all of his books. So I ordered all of his books and I read them all. And after maybe like 2, 3 months later, I decided that I will never have a boss. Like that's when I was like, yep, I'm cutting ties with the Marine Corps. I'm done. When my contract expires, I'm out and I'm
Wow.
going to be my own person. So like not just politically, and the presidency and all that stuff, spiritually, my Trump is my like leader in a sense, because like
Mentor. Yeah.
his
Without,
books,
yeah.
man, the art of the deal and all that stuff. Like when I saw like first like 70 or 80 pages in his book is about his daily work schedule.
Mm.
And it's just all these appointments and meetings and all this stuff. And it starts early and it ends late. And I was like, hold on a second. I'm already doing that.
Mm.
I'm already in meetings and working and getting up early and going to bed late and coming home and working on weekends. Why don't I do that for myself
Mm.
instead of for somebody else? And then that's when my mindset started switching from being just an employee, whether it's in the Marines or a corporation or something like that, like going out on my own and starting my own business. And I've been pursuing it ever since, dude.
That's so rad. That's
Yeah.
so rad.
Isn't that crazy? I'm an immigrant and I
Hmm.
heard Trump's speech. I didn't get offended. I got inspired by it. And
Right.
Americans, they're born here, they got offended by it. How does that even make sense?
Mm. Well, because the mainstream media, the war machine, the actual tyrannical people that man was up against and fighting against and wanting to expose, even the mainstream media itself as fake news, like he went against the
Every
tyrannical side of things. So that obviously that war machine got turned right on against him, and it was very effective with the orange man bad tactics. And you pump that information enough, it's like, oh yeah, like he's kind of a vulgar, arrogant billionaire. Like what I actually found it refreshing that man, the arrogant billionaire I knew as Donald Trump before he ever ran for political office, like I found him very intriguing, very interesting, but also like kind of off-putting to an extent. So when he actually boom became POTUS of America, it was just like I found it refreshing that as much as I wanted to see him become more presidential, as much as I wanted to see like him clean things up, it was actually very refreshing that he didn't change, that he stayed his true, authentic,
I love it,
arrogant billionaire self, which was actually really refreshing. And
bro. I
there's a lot
love,
to touch on there, but the Orange Man bad taxes were so effective that folks no longer even looked at what he was accomplishing, what he was exposing, what he was fulfilling, like he was doing what he was saying and what he ran on all these things, and he had hurdle after hurdle after hurdle, so they didn't make it easy on him. But also they just slander, and so many people like, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, offensive, sure, sure, but why are you judging a man off of that? Like when you do even a comparison with
how do you not see it? Like, how do
Joe
you not see
Biden,
that from
yeah,
2016 to 2020, like peace treaty
thriving,
signed in like 60
yes,
different conflicts around the country. Um,
ending the endless wars,
Dude, like he crossed into North Korea. Like he's the boss, bro. He showed up. He's like,
Right.
yeah, I'm crossing into your country and it will be safe. All right. That's it. He
Yeah.
showed up and they welcomed him with open arms, you know? Um,
Brought energy independence, the biggest tax. I mean, so many things. We were thriving. It actually leads into, why, yeah, their hand got kind of forced on this whole pandemic, had to blow up smoke and mirrors, all this stuff, because things like American people were starting to see like, wow, we actually could have a thriving economy, a
oh, we
thriving
could.
country. There's no reason for gas to be even over $2 a gallon, even to this day. No country throughout history ever went back on energy independence other than this country with this new puppet establishment. No, like that doesn't even make sense that you would go back on it.
It does.
And like it all, but we did it, and we're accepting of that. We're not fighting back on that. Are you kidding me? It's with everything that's happening.
No, so this is the thing. There's people fighting back. It's just the ones they're fighting back, they're quieted down. You know, they're like, hey, be
Right.
quiet. And the ones they're not fighting, the one that are against it, right?
Yeah.
Those are the ones that give them voices. Because you got to remember, they control the media, like the actual news networks, they control the social media, right? Everything's owned by these people except Twitter now, right? Or the X, whatever it's called.
Right.
Uh, they control everything. So that's why I like people like Dana White, right? He says what he means.
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
love it, dude, man. You
Yeah.
know,
It's
like lately
refreshing.
lately a few of his clips came across when they tried blackmailing him with like removing like sponsors for UFC. They tried blackmailing
Wow.
him. He's like, fuck you, like you're not gonna tell me who to vote for.
Right.
um so like shit like that, man, that I think there's a lot of people that are against him, and we see those, and I don't think there's that many as much as they make it look like it,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Because you got to think about it. Like all of us, they're right here. Like think about it. I always tell everybody, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican.
Yeah.
Think about people you know. So like think about immediate, let's say 20 people you know. Who supports Biden? Who supports Trump? And I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm from Chicago. I know a lot of people in Chicago. Not one person that I know in Chicago, let's say immediate 20, that supports Biden. And
Right.
that's supposed to be a Democrat state, right? Now, I was stationed in California. I know a lot of people in California. The 20 people that I know in California, it's supposed to be a Democrat state. No one that I know, let's say in personal, in first 20, supports Biden.
Mm.
Everybody supports Trump. So, like, everything's driven by the media, bro. Like, the election results, California, 0% of the voting called Democrat. So, like, how's that even possible?
Yeah.
Like, what are we actually? So, we live in an unrealistic society that's driven by these people that fabricate the
Yep.
reality, that fabricate it, right?
Yes.
So when they call it for Democrats, people don't even think like, how can something be called for Democrats when there's 0% of the voting? Okay, like how is that already a demo? Like, so people are like, oh, we lost California, so like they accept it already. It's
Mm.
fucking ridiculous what they're
Right.
doing. It's ridiculous.
It's all a circus. It's a play
It's
on words. It's just a screen. It's wild. That's where we really do need to get better organized, not even as left and right. All that's a construct, man. Set
it
that
is.
down. We
Uh-huh.
need to, there shouldn't be any discussion, any topic. I mean, just the fact we even say Trump on an episode, there's certain individuals, and I know some, like, so it's amazing to hear that you got those circles you do, but I challenge myself to actually draw near ones that have vocally, yes, I voted for Biden and I'm going to vote for him again. And I try drawing near to that individual to seek to understand, like, okay, oof, can you explain as to why that is? And I'm really just trying to bite my tongue and genuinely seek to understand, because that's just it. The war machine's been so effective on Orange Man bad. They just hear, oh, these fellas are pro Trump, ban. Let's even report this channel. let's dox, let's blah, and
Here's the
it's
thing,
and it's
people never ask. So I speak from experience. I've been under communism. I don't like
yes,
communism. If I like
no,
communism, I'll just move to fucking China, you know?
right,
Or something like that. I don't like communism. I like being a free person, driving a car that I want, living where I want, doing what I want, shooting my guns when I want, right? I like that
yeah,
stuff. I don't
right,
want to taking my guns away, but they're not going
yep,
to take them away from me while I'm alive, right?
amen, amen,
I always say that. That's what I love about. I'm telling you, if it wasn't for Second Amendment, I'd probably be living somewhere else because it's cheaper and it makes more sense, you know. But like when you see a Biden voter that stands
Mm,
against everything that America stands for, it's like, okay, name one thing in the last 3 years that got better.
right, one thing,
Just name one thing, like one thing that got better. And then they don't even say, oh, Biden fixed this, but oh, the Trump gave us the inflation because of COVID. He didn't know what to do. Or, oh, Trump did it. It's like, no, Trump took on crappy economy. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I had a TSP, which is equivalent to 401k in the military. In 3 days after his election, my military 401k doubled.
there we go.
3 days. He wasn't even a president yet. He was just elected.
Mm,
It doubled. Okay. So last year, stock market crashed like 35%, right? I'm actually in financial industry, so I follow these trends, right? So it crashed. So I tell them, okay, so stock market crashed, the food prices went up, the fucking inflation went up, the gas prices went up,
mm-hmm.
the property taxes went up, sales tax went up. Uh, I mean, it was like what, $20 for a carton of eggs for like 3 months?
We're not even a country anymore with
But
the
yeah,
human trafficking on that southern border.
that's insane, man. So all of
Yeah,
these things happen. So name one thing that got better,
yeah,
and they can't. Because I do know a couple of people. I don't really talk to them a lot because they don't want to talk to me. Not because I don't want to talk to them. They don't want to talk to me. I'm the racist guy, right? I'm a
wow,
fucking immigrant, and I'm racist. My mentor is a black dude, right? Uh,
right.
my business partner in my apparel industry is a Mexican guy, but I'm the racist guy,
They could
right?
project
That is
all those type, like
that
that's
is
what evil likes doing. Oh
so
my gosh.
ridiculous, man.
Right.
Yeah,
You're
you met Jorge. He's my business partner. He's
oh
actually
yeah.
become a co-owner of Black Eagle Apparel. We're about to do he's gonna become uh like a vice president, kind of like co-owner
Way cool.
of
Okay.
the whole company. We're not gonna do like a franchise thing anymore. We're just gonna do one company.
Ooh, that's cool. Well, I look forward to
Yeah.
having Jorge on then.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, me and him maybe we could do some kind of podcast because I'm gonna do a podcast with him when we get there. Maybe
Cool.
we can schedule a day where both of us can show up and we just have all three of us on there.
That'd be wicked cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
What are we at? Hour
We're
and 22 minutes. How freaking awesome. Let's
I know.
go.
I was
What
like,
what amazing content. I mean, bro, the it's a challenge. How do we flip that switch within individuals to start utilizing these tools around them? Podcast realm, for example, and getting real news, real sources, real call to action, real organization, and ensuring a better tomorrow. How do we flip that switch so we're not so self-serving and selfish and just me, and actually taking the proper action to those around us and ensuring a better freaking tomorrow? Like, what is most effective? That's where, as soon as I came out on the tail end of this Lyme disease, I just felt gifted from all these platforms. And I'm just like, well, I could just be another voice and have other people like you on and just start resonating with more people, help directing some of this. I'm a limited being. I'm just one man, and but we got to do something, right? We
well,
just have to.
I appreciate what you're doing, man. Like I'm gonna
Oh
help you with whatever you need, right? I
man,
don't care if you need like apparel, if you need moral support, whatever you need, man. I'm here. I got your
appreciate
back.
that.
I never even met you in person, right?
Yet.
And I will next month, right? I'm gonna be in Arizona. But whatever you need from me, man, I'm here. I
Okay.
ain't going nowhere. I'm
Okay.
motivated. I'm fired up. I'm excited, dude. Life is great. We live in the greatest country in the world.
Yes.
Um, we're gonna do this together, man. And we're gonna spread me as an immigrant. I'll help you spread what Americans should be spreading, right? Patriotism, sense of pride in this country and in everything that we have here. You know,
Well, you're a
people
full-blown
don't.
citizen now.
Yeah, I am. I'm a citizen.
Yeah.
I got the passport, and, all that stuff. I served the military and all that. But not just that, man. It's just like, you got to remember, like these people. If you're questioning America, just think about it. When was the last time you sat down and said, "I want to go to Venezuela," right, or China, or anywhere else? But every one
Right.
of those people cut their balls off just to come here if they could.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So think about it that way, and there's a reason for that.
Right.
So
Aleks, thank you so much for your time. We're going to add a lot of links into the comments on this one, folks. So be sure to check all that out. Now, I on your actual Black Eagle Apparel site, I believe you even have a lot of your podcasts listed. So you're
yes,
on a you're on Podbeam. We'll add the
um, I'm
links.
I'm on Buzzsprout, but Be
Buzzsprout.
Stellar podcast is my podcast.
Okay.
And I'm pretty much on YouTube and every other
Cool.
podcast platform like Apple, iTunes, Spotify, whatever. I'm on
Perfect.
all of those. So if you guys want to check out my podcast, go on my website, scroll down towards the bottom. I have a whole section dedicated to my podcast on the website.
Perfect.
You can just click on it, watch videos on YouTube and all that stuff. Um, but hey, man, I appreciate you, dude. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to, come see you next month. We're gonna do another
Yep.
episode. It's gonna be on both of our podcasts. Um, and yeah, dude,
Well,
thanks a
let's
lot, bro.
go. All right, let me do a quick sign off here and I'll chat with you off the air. Listeners, thanks so much for joining us today. Let's support this man. Let's unite. Let's have a positive impact on our futures and our children's future. Let's go. Let's do this. I freaking love you guys. Look forward to next time. God bless.